This is the Seller Process Podcast, where we talk about the best systems, processes, and SOPs for your Amazon business so that you can regain control of your time, build up your team, and scale your e-com empire.
Welcome, entrepreneurs. Gianmarco here. If you recently have been feeling overwhelmed and you are looking to expand your team to take off your plate some of your tasks, this episode is for you. We brought to the show a true expert in hiring and managing VAs who is going to share with us the 13 steps process he uses in his own agency to search, vet, and hire great e-commerce VAs. I'm talking about Gilad Freimann. He's an Amazon seller since 2015 and the co-founder and CEO of VAA Philippines. VAA specializes in providing highly skilled, screened and trained virtual assistants from the Philippines to Amazon sellers worldwide. Today, VAA Academy has approximately 200 virtual assistants working for them. And these VAs are trained to do almost any job on Amazon Seller Central, as well as social media, Amazon PPC, graphic design, and arbitrage. Well, welcome, Gilad. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here, and I'm looking forward, to give a lot of the knowledge that we gathered within the company for the last couple of years.
Sounds great. So I've already mentioned this 13 steps process. So why don't we start right away with outlining, this process, these steps quickly, just to have a general idea, so that then we can dive deeper into the most critical points.
All right. Okay. So these 13 steps are the steps that we are doing at VAA Philippines. So I would say that most of these steps, if not all of them, would apply to any business wanting to hire, even if it's just one VA or a team of VAs, or hiring on regular basis people by outsourcing them through the internet. I'll go over the 13 steps. Try not to go too long on each one, and then feel free to ask me some questions for any given point. We obviously start the recruitment process with the job ad. We have to create the job ad. That's the first step. We're going to talk about later, but there are a lot of elements that we have to include and think about when creating this ad. And the second step would be posting it. It looks like it's obvious, but you have to think of exactly where you want to post it, when you want to post it, and how it should look like, and so on. The third step is the filtering of the applicants. So you're going to get a lot. That's something that happens all the time when interviewing people online, especially from the Philippines, VAs from the Philippines. Your problem is not to get, if you get like one or two applicants. Your problem is probably that you're going to get 300 applicants applying for the job. And filtering is a major factor here. So we're going to talk about the third step, which is the initial filtering of the applicants. Those that will pass this step will go to the fourth step, which is the invitation for an interview, which goes almost together with the fifth step, which is scheduling of the interview. So these two are more technical steps. Invite the right people for the interview and making sure that we schedule them at the right timing, especially if you want to have a lot of interviews with a lot of people, then it's something that you have to take care of. The next step would be the initial interview. Bear in mind, this is the initial interview, which means that we're going to have another interview later on. But on the initial interview, we're going to focus more on technical elements and some questions that we prepared before to see if we have the right people to go and continue with us the process. We're not choosing yet our final decision. But that's a very important element, which I would say about at least like 30% of the applicants will not continue from to the next step. Then we have the next step, which is a trial task. In here, we already have the filtered amount of people that went through the entire process until now, and they responded correctly to the ad. We found that what they have to say is interesting. We invite them for an interview, and then now it's time for us to see what they're actually made of. We're giving them a task that will, each one will create their own task, but this is a task that should already see their potential, like how they think, how they act on a certain situation, how would they respond, and so on. We'll talk about it later. But based on this task, we'll decide the next step will be endorsement of candidates to the final interview. So based on that task, we'll decide if they are, and also about based on the initial interview, then we'll decide if they are good enough to be going to the next step, which is the final interview. In the final interview, we're going to go over other aspects of their criteria. So we're going to go deeper into understanding how beneficial they are to the company, if they have the right ethics and the right way of thinking, and if basically their character fits what we're looking for, not just their skills. So that's the final interview. After that comes obviously the interview results. We have to gather all the results of all the applicants that we still have left, and see how much who among them was did the best results, and then only then we go to the background check. It looks a bit strange because you would expect to start with the background check in the beginning, but this is a step that takes a lot of time and effort. Going deeper, understanding their profile on Facebook, they're talking to their previous employers, and so on. So this is something that we do only for those that we're really almost on the edge of deciding if they're going to be accepted to our community. The step before the final step would be taking the final person that we've selected, or if you're looking for several people, then taking those that finished all the steps until now, and asking them to some requirements, like for example to sign a contract, an NDAs, and giving you their ID, bank accounts, and all that. Some formal steps that you have to do, and then there is the last step, which is like another conversation by its own, which is the onboarding. I added it in here because onboarding is a crucial part of the recruitment process. It looks like the person was already chosen, selected, and now they're on the way and nothing can go wrong. But actually, during the onboarding, we continue to make sure that we have the right people. We continue to see that and they are fit for the job and for what we want them to become in our company. And we have to make sure that we also support them and give them with the right tools to continue and thrive in the company. So these are the 13 steps of at least that we are doing at VAA. Usually it helps us to filter about 98% of the applicants. It's for us, every company has their own way of deciding who will pass to the next step. But for us, it helps us, to focus on the 2% that will know that will become great VAs, and they are the one that go to the onboarding.
Cool. Okay, definitely. So that's very interesting. So guys, having making sure to hire the best VAs, or making sure that you hire an A player instead of a B or C player, it's critical for the success of your business. So having like a great process that like the one that Gilad just mentioned, it's totally necessary for you to really select the best candidate. So let's dive deeper into some of these steps, which I think some of them are more critical than others. So beginning with the job ad, that's really where everything begins, right? So what should we be aware of? What are the tips and tricks and the elements that we should include in the job ad in order to make sure that we attract the right candidates?
Well, so first of all, exactly like you said, we have to attract people. A lot of people don't really realize that. They think, okay, I need somebody. I'll post an ad, and I'll just choose the right people. They are applying to me, so I just I don't really need to be attractive. I just need to select the right people. It's not true. If you want the best people to apply to your position, then you have to make sure that your position is attractive enough. And obviously there is the content that you want them to do, but there is also the way that you present it and create the ad. So the ad itself, whether if you're posting it on for example on Facebook, that you can create some designing to it, some graphics, adding the logo, adding some enticing information over there that will attract the applicants. So this is something very important to start with, to create a creative copy, and not just by text but also by designing. So that's, I would start there. The second thing is, obviously in an ad you should include all the things about your company. For example, what's the work schedule. Don't hide these kind of things. People post an ad and they think, okay, after that I will talk about the rate, how much they will get. I will just write negotiable. I will write flexible hours, and then we'll talk about it in the interview. You're just wasting your time, because you're going to have more and more applicants to apply that they're not the right fit. Once they know what's your rate, they will decide maybe that it's not for them. Once they know that this is it means that they should work night shifts, then it's not for them, and you're just wasting time interviewing more and more people, or going over more and more ads. So that's something that I would start with, and making sure that you're transparent and talking to them about all the things that are important for them: the rate, the work schedule, their responsibilities, what they should be working on, the requirements that will require them to work. All these should be in the job ad. A good tip that I would add is what we call a trial task. This little task is something that will measure the resourcefulness, and the intelligence and capabilities, even by a little bit, of the applicants. We do it because so many applicants, they send their resumes to hundreds of employers every day. They're just sending it, and they copy paste, and they just hold, they hope that something will stick. And we want to avoid that. We want to make sure that the applicants that will come to us are those that are really interested in our position, that they think that our job ad was the perfect match for them, and this is why they're willing to sacrifice and to put so much effort into being accepted to it. So a good way to do it is by creating a trial task. A trial task would look like a very simple thing that will be inside of the ad itself. For example, in your application, please go on. I don't know. We usually do something like this. Please go and check this ASIN on Amazon and tell us what is the price of the red variation of this product, or what is the best, what is the review, the negative review that so many people are complaining about in the product. So something not difficult, but it will require the applicants to stop for a second to read your ad. Okay, and not just to copy paste immediately and to send it to you. So after that, you have less things to read, and then to actually take a minute, go on Amazon, look for this specific ASIN, look for the review, or look for the variation, the red color, and see what's the price, and then add it in their answer. So only that small request will eliminate dozens of applicants. You will be surprised to see how many people would fall into this, because they're just so used to just copy and paste, and their copy paste looks so great that you would say, just by reading their CV, you would think, wow, this is amazing, I have to interview this person. But he or she did not even read your ad. So I would not, for our company, I would not want to hire anybody that did not even read my ad and did not really want to know. They just send it, to hundreds of people. So that's something that we definitely take in consideration. And also how to apply, instructions how to apply. If you want to filter some more, then you should create, for example, a form of application and send a link over there and saying application should be done only by this link, or application should be done only to this email address, and you create a recruitment at and your company name, email address. So it will also require the applicants to read and to follow instructions, to see, not just to say, okay, I'll just reply to this ad and say, here are my CVs, but they have to read it, they have to follow the instructions, they have to understand and put some more thought, and it will tell you also some important things about these applicants. So these are the tips that we do, and I think are important when posting an ad.
Right. Okay, cool. Very interesting, actually, this trial task tip. So let's say this kind of job ads, the way you described it with the trial task, will lead us to get more relevant and attractive profiles, right? So then how do we proceed? There will be the initial interview, one of the next steps, right? I think it's the one that it's most difficult for people, because you really need to have a little bit of empathy. You need to understand people and read through the lines of what they really mean when they're talking. So can we go through that, and what are your suggestions in order to make a great initial interview and really understanding that person, in order that we are able to pick the right person for our role?
Yeah. All right. So bear in mind, like I said before, the initial interview is still an initial interview. You're not supposed to choose your best person for the job and call it a day. Otherwise you're making a mistake. In this initial interview, we are here to filter more percentage of the applicants according to our needs, not to select the final one. But in the same time, in this interview, it's the first time that we have a chance to actually talk, even if it's not you yourself directly, but somebody from your organization, to explain to the applicant, to the candidate, about the company background, about the job requirements, talk again about the rate and the schedule, and also explain to them about the recruitment process. So they'll know where they're at. They'll know that, okay, you've already finished the first step. You applied correctly, and we decided that you have the potential to continue with us. This is the initial interview. There will be another interview later on. There will be tasks. So it will take another 2-3 weeks until we complete this. So they'll know where they're at, and they know what to expect. So I would say that this is the way to start an interview. Don't just start by immediately, intimidating the applicants and starting asking questions. Tell about your company. Tell about why you've decided that you want to hire, and what are the requirements and the responsibilities for this applicant to be doing in your company. The next step of the interview will be divided into two parts: a system check and the interview question. So before starting the interview, it's actually the system check. What we want to make sure is that the applicant will be talking and making the interview from their own home or from the place where they will be working for you. Okay, so if they're just sitting in a quiet coffee place because they went specifically for this place because it's quiet, but then after that they're working from their home where they're always constant barking and children and chickens in the background. So you should know about it. I'm not saying that necessarily you'll decide to not to hire a person who has noise background, but you should know about it. And so you want to make sure that the person will be conducting the interview from their work environment, and he or she will be sharing this environment with you by video. So it will be, for example, by Zoom, and he will go around with the camera, and he or she. Every time I say he or she, obviously you understand what I mean. But you have to make sure that you see the environment. You ask them, like, is this the place that you're working for? Is it quiet? Are there any noises in your area or any problems or difficulties? Now let's talk about your computer. Do you have a backup computer? Do you have a backup generator? Do you have a backup? What happens if, let's talk about the speed of your computer. Let's talk about the speed of your internet. Let's do an internet speed test. And you do it, live. So, you share the screen, and the applicant will actually create a speed test. So you'll be able to see if that meets your criteria. So all these things are important to know before even starting to interview the applicant, because you might see that the second that the applicant will go to video, suddenly the entire internet connection will fall because it's not strong enough. Or suddenly you hear a lot of noises in the background, or you'll see that he's actually talking to you from his living room, with kids. It's all these things are important. After that, so we're still on the technical side of things, but then comes the interview itself, and in the interview you are essentially assessing not the deep level of their performance, but more talking about checking their communication skills, how well they can communicate in English, and if they can understand exactly what you're talking to them, and they can express themselves, and talk about their work experience and their personal background, like where they studied, if they're married, not married, what's their situation, what's their future career or personal plans. Maybe they will tell you that this for them is a sidekick because they're studying in the same time, and they're looking for a momentarily job, and it's important for you to know this question. And then the last, what we do is we go and ask them a little bit by giving them some kind of a simulation, like how would they act in a certain situation if they were as a worker. For example, what would you do if we tell you that you'd have to shift to a different position, or what would you do if you're in the end of your studying, you will be hired to a better job, or if somebody will offer you a better rate. You want to see the reaction, not necessarily they will tell you the whole truth, but you want to see how they deal with such questions. So these all are things that are extremely important to us in the interview. There are also things that we say that are super important for us, about what we are not going to negotiate. For example, it's up to you to say now, for example, that we are not going to negotiate about the price. That's the rate. After, you can talk to them and tell them, like, if you continue with us after a year, you should be getting a raise, and then we give the bonuses, so they know exactly what to expect and what is not negotiable. And you can also tell them what is negotiable, like which tools they will be using, and what, for example, if they know something about, do you have knowledge of a certain tool? Do you know about Helium 10? I'm giving them examples here from the world of Amazon. So if they don't know it, you can tell them, okay, that's fine. It's not something that it's a must for us, because we're going to train you on that. But it was important for me to ask, so they'll know what are the boundaries of what is okay to do and not okay to do.
Okay, got it. All right. So then I guess you have to always have a really very crystal clear what you're looking for, because then you have to compare, everything that people are saying to you with your like ideal version of your ideal team member, right? So that's really, I think, very, very important to have it crystal clear. So then after we set up these first questions in order to understand really the person and what's their goal, their background. So that will help us basically screen a few more persons. So like
exactly.
vet more persons. So some of them will pass to the next step, which is the final interview, right? It's like a funnel. So we're funneling these people into the next steps. So in the end, a few of them will actually pass. Actually, maybe
right.
For most people, just one person will pass, because they're looking for one person at a time, probably most of them. So what are the criteria that we should adopt for this very final vetting? Like, what is those kind of like yes or no critical thing that we should take care of?
All right. So just reminding that, before actually inviting the applicants to the final interview, there is the step of the trial task. And the trial task is not the same task that I mentioned before. The task that I mentioned in the beginning was a task that we give, when posting the ad. It's just something that will, take them a second to go and look for the answer. The trial task is something that you already talk about in the interview. You tell them, okay, then if you'll pass the next step, is going to be a trial task. We're going to tell you what you'll need to do, and we're going to see how you perform. And in this step, it's actually something that we're already going to test how they work. So, for example, a good way on the Amazon world of testing somebody is to give them a test, and in order to see how they follow instructions, and if they're capable of doing this test, it will not require for them any additional previous knowledge. We're not testing their experience, at least us, at VA. We're not testing at that point their experience. We already talked about their experience before in the interview. Here, we just want to see from base zero how they perform. If they know how to follow instructions correctly, if they know how to pursue a certain method of work. And so we should tell them when should this task be submitted. And we want to see, for example, I'll give you the example. The example that we give a lot of times at that point is go over a certain product on Amazon and read the reviews. And it should be an open task. Read the reviews and let us know what are the three negative reviews that comes again and again by different customers that are complaining about. And tell us what are these three negative reviews, and tell us your opinion. What would you do in the product? What would you change in order to create a better product? If you were the owner of the business, what would you do in order to create a better product based on the information that you gathered? So here, what we're testing them is, first of all, to see that they are willing to put some effort in actually working on something. We want to see if they know how to follow the instructions, and they will submit the three most repeated reviews, and we'll know exactly what they are. So we'll know if they did a good research or not, if they just follow the first three negative reviews or not. And we'll know also how, if they read everything and understood it correctly. And then we can see also already how they think, and if they have good recommendations, and we can also see how they build an answer. How will they present it? It will be on a PDF, nice and in order, and something that will be very clear for us to understand. Or if it's going to be like mumbo jumbo with short sentences, and you can see a lot from this from this task. So that's something that we take in consideration after already vetting the people from the initial interview, and then comes the second interview. So in the second interview, this is already the time that we want to see. We're going to go over the task that they had, and we're going to see, or what we want to see is how how connected they will be to our company. We want to see how committed they are, and what's their motivation level, and what value they would bring to the position and the company. So these are completely different things that we're testing compared, to the initial interview. Here we want to see how independent they are working, they could work, and we want to see how they can handle pressure and challenging situations. We're going to give them some situation. We'll say, okay, what would you do in these type of tasks, and how would you solve some problems? And we want to see how they could contribute to the company. So every seller or every company should, decide what their own criteria are. But this is a time to go a bit deeper into understanding the personality of the person, and not just to see if they're fit, based on their experience. I could tell you that from doing this for over 5 years now, experience, at least in becoming a VAs on Amazon, does not play a big role. It's easy for an applicant to show that they have experience. A lot of times it's exaggerated. Sometimes it's even manipulated. We're not really testing them according to their experience. Somebody could come with zero knowledge on Amazon, but if they have the right potential and commitment and communication skills and learning capabilities of learning something complicated, and apply it without mistakes fast enough, and they're eager to learn more in advance, then we could train them on almost anything on Amazon, and they would become experts within no time, compared to somebody who comes to us with on the paper everything looks really good, but in reality it takes them forever to learn new things. They have confident problems that they think that they know it all, and they're not really willing to learn new things. So this is why we have the final interview. It's to go deeper and understanding their potential more, and their rather than just their experience.
Okay, great. Yeah, sounds great, and I think it's the smart way, definitely, because it doesn't matter if people really have tons of experience. Maybe they have the wrong experience and they just do the wrong things in your business. It's better sometimes, that you teach them what to do and how to do it, as long as they have those key elements like commitment, motivation, and really the right potential. And I found also, like in some interviews I've made with other VAs, that for example, I ask if they read books, or if they what kind of courses they've took in the past. So that's kind of a way to judge whether they are kind of learners, or they don't care much about their education. And usually people who really care about their education are the ones that who also perform the best.
Yeah,
my experience.
Completely agree. I can tell that all our VAs, they're all university graduates, but in order to become a VA, we do not really need them to have a diploma in the university. But it tells us a lot about their commitment before, that they were willing to sacrifice several years of their life in order to study and to become excellent in something and learn it, and they loved learning more, and it tells us a lot. So I can completely agree.
Right. Okay, cool. So for the sake of time now, let's have, go through the last point, which I think it's really important. As you mentioned at the beginning, the onboarding phase. Once we went through these 2 levels of screening through the interviews, and actually 3 levels, the 2 interviews and the trial task, then, let's say we have decided on the best candidate for our role. So we need to onboard that person. So it's not we haven't finished our job. Actually, that's where it starts, by onboarding the person and starting working with them. So what are some quick tips and tricks that we can use, and what should we be aware of when we start working with a VA?
All right. So like I mentioned before, onboarding is extremely important. People think, once you take all the time in the world to find the right people, and then you spend, 2 days on onboarding. For us, onboarding takes between 1 month to 3 months. That's onboarding. So onboarding means that you, first of all, you will welcome the new hire to the company. You will present them, your HR department if you have, and then they will take that applicant and introduce that person to the company vision, to the mission and the culture, to the policies and and the different procedures, any references that the organization might have. They need to start working and learning from scratch what it's all about. And it also means that you will have to have this, before even starting to hire somebody, you have to think about these things. It's not enough just to hire the right person and then, throw them into, nothing and then hoping that, he or she will do just fine. The more you are organized, the more you have systems and procedures, then that the best you could achieve from each and every employee that you're going to hire. So first of all, you're going to endorse the new hire to the department where they will be working on, if it's customer service or managing shipments or PPC or any other department that you have in your business. You're going to introduce that person to the team and the teammates, even if they're all working from home and they're all working through online. They're still a team, and they're still gathering in some meetings, and they have their protocols and they have their activities, and the new hire needs to know about these protocols and the activities, and when you're celebrating events and what's happening. So that's the first step. The second would be the first month of the new hire. In this first month, we know that it's crucial that that person would be guided. So we connect the new hire with a dedicated person to guide him around, to have weekly checks in on the new hire, seeing how they're doing, and there should be obviously trainings involved, because that person is going to have to learn first of all the general idea of what they will be doing. Even if they have experience in it already before, there's always the way that this company is doing things. So I can teach him how to do customer service in general, but then he will be starting to work with you and you're doing customer service completely different. So it's not enough just to know about the different tools and how to answer emails. You need to understand and observe the way that this specific company is managing things. So that's the first month, guidance and with weekly check-ins and trainings. And after that comes the second to the third month, which is already assessment. We want to see how they perform. We want to see what their teammates are thinking about the new hire. We want to see what the department manager is thinking. How do they respond to the different assignments that we've given them? How do they respond to the training that we've given them? So that's the time that we start to evaluate if we had the right person. Because if we've did everything correctly until now, we've filtered, like I said before, 98% of the applicants. So we have only the 2% that will know that they have the potential. And we did the onboarding. The first month was done correctly. So we've trained that person correctly. And we've guided him or her around, to make sure that they know about everything on the company. So now it will be much easier for us to assess if the performance are good enough to what we look for. And this is why onboarding is it's an ongoing process, and it's still a way of recruitment filtering. It's not it never ends, until for us it ends once the VA has passed the first 3 months of working with us, not when they're hired to the company. We want to make sure that we have enough time to evaluate their performance.
Definitely. Yeah, that's I agree. That's one of the most important parts. And also it will keep that person, motivated. If you don't really onboard that person in the right way, then they're not going to perform well because they don't feel part of the business. They don't feel part of the mission of your business. So they will not be really committed, and their performance might not be as good as they would be, if they would be more committed to your company. Right. So that's a critical part. So guys, you can find all of these 13 steps that we just discussed and that Gilad showed us in the as every time in every episode of the Seller Process podcast. You will find complimentary material downloadable from the show notes of the episode at thesellerprocess.com. So you just find this episode, and in the show notes you'll find a link, or if you're watching on YouTube, you will find the link also in the YouTube description. All right, so Gilad, tell us where people can find you and how can you help them if they are looking for VAs or help from you to hire a VA.
All right. So, first of all, in a sentence about us, we excel in filtering virtual assistants from the Philippines. All our VAs, they're all Filipinos whom we filter in a very long and thorough process as I described, and then train them specifically on Amazon and e-commerce in general, and then specifically on Amazon. If people want to reach out to us and they're looking for VAs on any topic that's related to e-commerce and specifically on Amazon, they could just go on our website, www.vaaphilippines.com, or reach out to us by service@vaaphilippines.com.
Awesome. Sounds great. So thank you very much, Gilad, for sharing your knowledge and your process with us. So guys, remember, the key to success is to emulate the best. So follow what Gilad just said, these 13 steps to hire an A player for your business, because he has hired hundreds of VAs and he knows what he's talking about. So let's follow the processes that are proven and tested. Right. So guys, thank you very much for listening, and have a great and productive week. Hey entrepreneurs, I hope you enjoyed the episode and learned something from the interview. If you're serious about creating systems for your business, automating processes and building up your team so that you can transfer the tedious daily tasks in order to focus on more high-level strategic tasks and work on your business and not in your business, I've created a guide for Amazon sellers named Capturing Systems and Creating SOPs that you can find at thesellerprocess.com/systems ebook, where you will learn how to leverage systems and SOPs in your Amazon business so that you can accomplish more by working less, optimize your time, automate and delegate tasks, and reap the benefits of being a true business owner and not simply an operator in your own business. Go download the ebook at thesellerprocess.com/systems ebook and start implementing all the tips and insights that I share with you, and leave us a review or a comment to let us know how the content we are sharing here is making an impact in your business. And have a productive week.